Welcome back to the Deep Dive. Today, we're taking a plunge into a world that, well, it might seem like it just lives on old bookshelves. We're talking about the astonishing, really far-reaching influence of J.R.R. Tolkien. You probably know The Hobbit, The Lord of the Rings,
Mm.
epic fantasy, right? But what started as this passion project by a philologist, someone deep into language's ancient texts, it ended up stretching way, way beyond books. It transformed some really unexpected parts of modern culture.
Yeah, absolutely. And that huge reach, it really boils down to a core idea Tolkien himself talked about a lot, subcreation. He had this belief that humans, being made in the image of a creator, we don't just consume the world, we sort of imitate that divine creativity. We build our own coherent secondary worlds. He actually said, fantasy remains a human right we make in our measure and in our derivative mode because we are made in the image and likeness of a maker. So for him, Middle-earth wasn't just like a backdrop for a story, it was a template, a fully realized world you could step into, yes, but also something others could learn from, build upon.
Okay, so that's our mission for this deep dive then. We're going to unpack exactly how Middle-earth just, well, seeped into modern culture, how it shaped literature, gaming, even environmental thinking, internet culture, and ethical storytelling. Stuff Tolkien himself probably couldn't have predicted. It really changed how we imagine things, how we interact with the world. So let's start with literature. You could definitely argue Tolkien just redefined fantasy, but how? How did he manage to lift a genre that honestly was often seen as a bit whimsical,
Mm.
maybe for kids? What was the secret sauce there?
That's a great way to put it, and it really comes down to his method, his whole approach. The Lord of the Rings wasn't just telling a big story. It brought this weight, this gravitas of ancient mythologies into fantasy. And it was infused with his incredible skill as a philologist. He wasn't just making up names, he was building entire languages
Hmm.
with grammar, history, etymology, real linguistic depth. And those languages then shapes the cultures, the history, the whole feel of Middle-earth. It made it seem ancient, solid, real. That created this new gold standard for believable worlds, one that other writers then really started aiming for, made some older fantasy feel a bit thin, maybe.
Right.
Less substantial. Exactly. Tolkien talked about this in his essay on fairy stories. He said something like, what really happens is that the story maker proves a successful sub-creator. He makes a secondary world which your mind can enter. And that model, that idea of deep world building, it profoundly influenced so many major fantasy authors we read today. George R.R. Martin, Robert Jordan, Patrick Rothfuss, Brandon Sanderson. They all picked up on that need for extensive backstory, for that linguistic depth, that mythic resonance. They understood the world itself is a character, almost as important as the plot.
And it wasn't just the authors he influenced, was it? It must have completely changed what readers expected, too. I mean, before Tolkien, were people demanding maps and glossaries with their fantasy? Probably not. He sort of turned fantasy into this participatory thing, didn't he? Exploring a world, not just reading a plot. And I think characters like Gollum or Boromir, they aren't just good or evil.
Yeah.
That psychological complexity, that must have paved the way for more morally gray characters later on, too.
Absolutely. That nuance is key. And Tolkien himself, he kind of knew what he was doing there. He said, the stories were not made to give one the impression of historical reality, but to produce the effect of having the air of history. He got that, the depth, the details. They created this almost believable past, this sense of a huge ancient world unfolding, even if it wasn't, factually real history. It just pulls you in completely.
Okay, so moving beyond the books themselves, Tolkien's connection to nature, that had a surprisingly big impact, almost prophetic, on environmental thinking. He wasn't an activist like we think of today, but that ecological sense is just everywhere in the books. How did that show up?
Oh, it's woven right through the fabric of the story. Just think about the contrast he paints. You have the Shire, idyllic, green, agrarian harmony, right?
Yeah.
Right? And then you have Mordor and Isengard, industrial desecration, ugliness, pollution. Saruman, for instance. His evil isn't just abstract, it's directly tied to his contempt for nature. Tolkien describes him so chillingly. He has a mind of metal and wheels, and he does not care for growing things.
Oof. Yeah.
His transformation of Isengard. It's not just dark magic, it's explicitly anti-nature. It's industry running rampant, destroying the living world. And then, of course, you have the Ents, the tree herders. They literally get up and walk to war to defend the natural order. It's incredible imagery. But maybe the most poignant bit is the scouring of the Shire when Frodo gets back home.
Oh, that part is heartbreaking.
Isn't it? His beloved home, it's been polluted, dehumanized by this petty industrialism. Tolkien writes about A desert of scorched grass, old bottles, and broken china, a light smoke, thin and dirty, came from a tall chimney. It's such a stark warning about what happens when you prioritize machines over life, over the land, almost disturbingly relevant today.
And it ties so directly back to his own feelings, doesn't it? He famously wrote, "I am, in fact, a hobbit in all but size. I love gardens, trees, and unmechanized farmlands."
Hmm.
So that personal vision, embedded so deeply in the story, it really fostered what people now call a green reading of Tolkien. It encouraged generations to think about stewardship, about caring for the earth, rather than just dominating it. All right, let's shift gears a bit. From green fields to game controllers, that leap into gaming is massive. What was it about Tolkien's world that made it so perfect as a foundation for interactive stuff like Dungeons and Dragons and then, the whole video game industry?
It's fascinating, right? Because with D&D, it wasn't just borrowing elves and dwarves. Lots of folklore had that stuff. It was Tolkien's fully realized, internally consistent world that gave them a blueprint. A blueprint for immersive campaigns that could go on and on. His deep history, the detailed maps, the internal logic of it all. It created a space that players really wanted to live in to explore.
Right, not just visit, but inhabit.
Exactly. It offered this model for emergent storytelling for player agency that D&D then kind of codified and, well, monetized. And that changed game design fundamentally. It went beyond just telling a pre-written story. And you see that legacy directly in modern video games. Massively. Think about games like the Elder Scrolls series or World of Warcraft, Dragon Age, even something like Elden Ring. They all echo that Tolkien approach. Huge, sprawling maps you can explore for hours, incredibly deep lore, often invented languages, complex moral situations.
Yeah, the lore in those games can be immense.
Totally. And game designers now routinely include things like codices, bestiaries, in-game books full of history. Those are elements lifted straight from Tolkien's appendices, style of embedding lore everywhere. It all serves to deepen that feeling that you're stepping into a real living history.
It's like his world wasn't just a setting, it was an invitation to inhabit this place. So when you hear Tolkien-esque about a game, you immediately know what that means, don't you? High fantasy, deep history, immersive realism, ready for you to explore.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so he shaped stories, he shaped games, but he also shaped fandom itself. That's another layer. People talk about the Tolkien cult back in the 60s and 70s. That was like proto-fandom, wasn't it?
Mm-hmm.
Discussing genealogies, debating obscure points of lore, forming communities long before the internet. How did that carry over into the digital age?
It's a really direct line, actually. When the internet did arrive, forums, Usenet groups, eventually wikis and fanfiction sites, Tolkien's works, were often the template. They were the model. Think about the Red Book of Westmarch in the story itself. It's a book within the story, supposedly written by the hobbits.
Right, a metafictional thing.
Exactly. And that brilliant idea sort of inspired the use of in-world documents and lore databases in other huge franchises. You see it in Star Wars, The Witcher, The Expanse. It gave fans a way to engage, a model for how to collect and contribute to the lore, even if it wasn't, official canon. And look at the fan-run wikis today. Places like Tolkien Gateway or the One Wiki to Rule Them All. They perfectly mirror the structure of Tolkien's own legendarium, interconnected, cross-referenced, constantly expanding. They're like living databases of lore built by the community, much like how Tolkien himself worked with his notes and appendices.
It's almost like he accidentally designed the perfect system for it. With all those appendices, the linguistic notes, the sheer detail, he created a world that was just begging for fans to dig in, catalog it, debate it. He sort of built the architecture for the kind of participatory storytelling and collaborative lore building that just thrives online now. Quite the unintentional precursor.
Okay, so we've covered literature, environment, games, fandom, but maybe the deepest legacy, the most enduring one, is his ethical vision. His books are just soaked in these profound thoughts about mortality, about humility, mercy, the quiet strength of ordinary people. How does he get that across? And why does it still resonate?
It's absolutely central. It's not just tacked on. Think about Frodo. He's not a mighty warrior, is he? He's a burden bearer. His strength is endurance, pity. And Sam the gardener. He's arguably the true hero of the entire saga. His loyalty, his simple goodness.
Absolutely. Sam's journey is incredible. And Aragorn, he could claim ultimate power, but he leads with restraint, with grace. He understands service. That whole idea of renouncing power, of resisting its temptation, that's a massive theme. And it's subtly shaped by Tolkien's own Catholic faith, which really values humility, service, mercy. There's that powerful line from Faramir in The Two Towers, which really sums it up. I do not love the bright sword for its sharpness, nor the arrow for its swiftness, nor the warrior for his glory. I love only that which they defend.
That's beautiful. It's about the purpose, not the power itself.
Precisely. It's about protection, responsibility, not personal gain or glory. It's a really strong counter-narrative to, power for power's sake.
And you definitely see echoes of that in modern stories. The reluctant hero trope is everywhere, isn't it? Characters who don't seek power, but have greatness thrust upon them, often at great personal cost. You think of Harry Potter, Katniss Everdeen, maybe Geralt of Rivia, Jon Snow. They all kind of reflect that Tolkien-esque idea that heroism is often quiet, maybe even tragic. Self-sacrificing. It offers this really earnest alternative to the cynical anti-hero, reminding us that simple goodness and duty still have power. So wrapping up this deep dive, it's just staggering, really. The influence of J.R.R. Tolkien goes so much further than just fantasy novels. His work fundamentally reshaped modern literature. It defined how we tell stories in games and films. It sparked ecological awareness, built fandoms, and even gave us this enduring moral framework built on humility and hope. It's quite something how one person's imagination could ripple out and touch so many parts of our culture.
It really is. And what's maybe most fascinating is that Tolkien's legacy isn't just about creating Middle-earth for us to visit. It's about giving us a lens, a way to see our own world more clearly through myth. Through story, it helps us recover a way of looking at things, maybe, understand universal struggles, human nature. As Tolkien himself put it, he believed we need recovery. We need to see things as we are meant to see them, clear, bright, and meaningful.
In Middle-earth, maybe we find some of that recovery, a way to rediscover the wonder, the meaning in our own lives, our own world. And its echo is still with us, isn't it? It shows that myth still matters. It shapes the stories we tell ourselves, the games we play, the values we argue about and hold dear. What's the one thing that really stands out to you from all this?